Evening intuitives. As I said, the next couple weeks I'll post videos when I can. It's not going to be as regular as it was, but I'll try to get down here and get something up when I have time, hence why I'm down here at this time. So, thank you everybody who's new. I got a bunch of new subscribers. If you can keep that going, that'd be great. I like how some of my narcissism videos are making the rounds in the community, which is good because I want to talk about some of the darker aspects of narcissism and more specific topics that people who are way better at this and, way more qualified don't talk about. They tend to stick to broader topics, but there's a lot of them out there and I want to get specific. So, per request from a subscriber who wanted me to focus more on borderlines because he is the child of a borderline mother, as am I wanted to start to get into more of that. And I want to start with a pretty broad one, and that is, how does a borderline get their way? How does that differ from a narcissist? Well, there's similarities and differences. So, borderlines in general are more in your face than a narcissist. A narcissist, we all know, gaslighting, manipulation, flying monkeys, enablers. There's typically a lot of behind the back stuff going on with a narcissist. They'll align institutions, people, groups of people, things against you. They'll try to have it seem like society itself is annihilating you. They'll make you feel as if there's something wrong with you that everybody can see but you. That you can't do anything right and stuff like that. That's the narcissist. Borderline, the narcissist is more cunning, covert. It's more planning. A lot of pre-thought goes into what the narcissist does. Borderline's more in your face. So, the borderline, the narcissist will try to act normalish, out in public because they're so obsessed with what people think of them, keeping up with the Joneses and all that. Borderline, not so much. Borderline has no problem having a meltdown in public, letting people see who they really are. It's not nearly as much planning with a borderline. Them getting their way is way more in your face, sheer will, fear of a freak out than the narcissist. The borderline will say anything at any time, no matter how inappropriate, no matter how much they just pulled it out of their ass. Anything that they can say to try to stick the knife in you for to get you to submit to their will, they're gonna do it. And they don't care with the collateral damage. They don't care who sees it. It's just get their way at all costs. They'll just badger you and badger you and badger you until you're just better give them their way, kind of thing. They'll use fear. They will use guilt. Borderline will use guilt in many ways. Borderline will use guilt to make you feel make you feel guilty for not helping them. Oh, you're so important to me. I count on you so much. What would I do without you? The histrionics and all that, that they would be lost without you. And this is particularly useful tactic against empaths, and especially empaths that are givers. Yes, ENFJs, I mean you. I mean you. Recently saw a borderline manipulate the shit out of an ENFJ, and it broke my heart. And I tried to warn the ENFJ. I had to talk to the police as a result of that. Anyway, just for running my big mouth. I didn't even threaten anybody. Anyway, so the borderline will use that tactic for one. Borderlines will be more psychotic in their face. Narcissists do their best when they can. They can't always do it. To hide their psychosis from others because they want to appear as normal as possible as they can. Again, they can't always maintain that mask, but that thought's in their head. The narcissist knows, their narcissistic actions are wrong. They know, I can't let people see this. People know this isn't acceptable. Borderlines don't care. Borderlines will threaten you, get in your face, tell you that people are their property, tell you to do what they say or else, and they don't care who hears it because in their minds, that's okay for them. They have every right to do that because in the mind of the borderline, everybody exists basically to serve whatever their whim is at the time. And borderlines will turn on you like that. Narcissists, they might get mad at somebody and be like, well, they're still useful to me. I'll remember this and, I'll covertly stab them in the back later when they don't see it coming. Borderlines, no. You could be considered a friend of a borderline, their ally, whatever, whatever useful tactic they have at the moment. The second you do something that steps outside of what the borderline wants, or if you stand in the way of a borderline getting what they want, getting their supply, whatever they might be at the time, they will turn on you like that. They could have considered you a loyal friend for years. You stand in the way, whatever they're seeking their validation and their narcissistic supply from, hero to zero faster than you can imagine. And they don't care if they contradict themselves. This borderline could have been singing your praises for years. The second you're in their way for something they want, you are Lucifer, bloody morning star, faster than, and it doesn't matter like how they contradict themselves about everything they might have said 2 days ago. That's the borderline. The borderline, like the narcissist, wants what it wants, but the borderline does not have the patience that the narcissist has. The narcissist, wants what it wants and there's no stopping them either. But the narcissist is more capable of playing the long game. If they have to eliminate somebody, discredit somebody that's in the way of them getting their supply, they'll play the long game and they'll do it the best they can to make it seem like they had no hand in it, that it was fate. That it's just like, well, everybody can see this, it's just everybody found out who you really are. Borderline will just be in your fucking face, like, I claim this is mine, and now I will destroy you if I cannot intimidate you. Completely psychotic. Like I said, threats, everything they ever said about you changes on a dime, and they believe they have the right to do that. Like, they'll get in your face and be like, well, I told you you can't talk to this person. And if you look at them like they're fucking crazy, they'll look at you like, how dare you? I said it, therefore it is law. And then threats and stuff will usually quickly follow. Borderlines will, most infamous tactic is their meltdowns. A borderline will throw a tantrum anytime, any place, anywhere. And in these tantrums, they could use histrionics like, oh, what would I do without you? You're so important to me, this and that. You're so special. There may be a little love bombing in there to make the target, think like, oh, this person thinks so highly of me, or, I'm so important to them. But really, the purpose of it is to show what happens when a borderline doesn't get its way. When a borderline doesn't get its way, that's also fear, because you never know what they're going to do. Not only, as I said, will they say anything? Will they lie? Will they stab you in the back? Will they flat out slander you? But with a borderline, there's always a real chance of violence too, because in their meltdowns, again, anything could happen. They want to intimidate you. They want you to both fear them and feel sorry for them at the same time. It doesn't matter which one you feel in the mind of the borderline, because all that matters is their end game. And most of the time, that end game is to make the target completely submissive to the borderline. When the borderline picks a target, they want that person, that target's lives to completely revolve around the borderline. When that happens, I'm talking to the point where the borderline will do their best to isolate anybody from the target's life that may be saying to the target, like, this isn't right. This behavior is unacceptable. Like, people can't act like this. Like, that's not normal. You can't tolerate that. And the borderline will, try to like, well, but I need you, and what would I do without you? And I'm so lost, and I'm in such a bad place. And oh, the histrionics. I've lived through it for many years, 35 to be exact. So they'll do that. Like I said, anybody who dares question that it's wrong, dare questions the borderline's ownership of the target must be discredited, slandered, and eliminated at all costs, no matter what they have to do. Borderline will get you, if borderline sees you as a threat to their target, they'll do everything. If they can't intimidate you, if they can't turn people against you, they'll fucking try to get you in the back of a police car. Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's what the borderline will do. And their end result, what their target is, for the target not to care about anybody's opinions or feelings other than the borderlines. And that includes their own. The borderline seeks such control over their target that to the target, even what they want, even their hopes, their dreams, their feelings towards other people, what they want in their own life must be destroyed, to where the target only cares about pleasing the borderline. And then you see that borderline smirk. And if you dealt with borderlines, you know what I'm talking about. You know that evil smirk, you know, that they get when they realize, like, yep, I got what I wanted, mission accomplished. And it is evil. It is the most evil thing in the world. And even that for the borderline's not enough for their supply, because, they not only have to get their supply, they have to rub it in the faces of others that they got their supply, i.e., anybody who dared to try to call them out, who they may have slandered or gaslit or threatened, or maybe even, actually did use violence against. They have to rub it in their face, like, my game's still going. It's like, yeah, you can see right through me, but I still got what I want. What now? What now? What now, Mr. Intuition? And there's nothing you can do at that point. Because borderlines, for all their psychosis, are not stupid. They know how to pick the right target. They know, they can see who they can manipulate, who has trouble saying no, who's a people pleaser, who may be in a bad place in their life, who they can latch on to right away and use them for their supply. Yeah. Perhaps even after a couple days, they latch onto somebody, and if they, oh, wait, that sounds like you've been in a narcissistic relationship before. Bam! Borderline is on that, be it a romantic relationship, a friendship, mentorship, what have you. Those are attributes the borderline looks for in their next target. And they will continue to get that supply off of that person until that person is utterly destroyed, because they typically also pick people that have a high tolerance for bullshit. And as long as they can keep that target feeling sorry for that borderline and not giving a shit about their own emotions, their own life, their job, anything else, borderline's going to keep getting that supply. And a borderline knows no boundaries. Borderline not only knows no boundaries like a narcissist, they like to keep pushing it. So the borderline gets off on exploiting their target, like getting the target to basically not say no to things that the borderline knows they're uncomfortable with. But if they let the borderline do it anyway, oh, that is like the ultimate high for a borderline. They get off on exploiting others, on feeling that this person is my property, and they will let me do whatever I want. And as sick as that is the ultimate turn on for the borderline, for someone to be completely submissive to their will and allow anything, and I mean anything, to happen, because at that point, the target's whole existence is pleasing the borderline. So these are just some examples of how a borderline gets their way, what they're seeking, and the differences from, the difference was somebody with BPD versus the difference with somebody with NPD. I hope it was enlightening for all of you, and that perhaps, sadly, I know some of you that have dealt with borderlines know exactly what I'm talking about. I was raised by a borderline. I've seen these tactics my whole life, long before I knew what they were even. So remember, trust your intuition. If you think you're dealing with a borderline, know what you're dealing with, because if your intuition's telling you are, you probably are. And remember, try to help others as best you can, but sometimes you can't. And in the end of the day, if you try anyway when you know you can't, you're going to lose your integrity, and the person's still going to be the borderline's bitch. So keep that in mind. Please like and subscribe. Watch my videos to the end. Watch older videos, especially now when I'm going to have a couple weeks where I don't post as much new videos. But there's some good stuff in the old ones for you new subscribers. You should really check them out. Nobody's watching my Edge of the Coin videos, and I've asked nicely. But I will see you next time. Beware the borderline. Beware.